All right. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Serious Angler Podcast, powered by our friends over at X2 Power Batteries, and quite literally powered by X2 today. We're in the X2 booth at the Bassmaster Classic. I got some friends with me here. We got Adam Deakin from the Bass Boat. Down at the end here, we have Mr. Hunter Shryock, who's frequented the show many a times, and Mr. X2 himself, Mr. Shawn Budiac. What's going on, fellas?
We're here.
We're here, day two.
Oh, yeah.
We're excited.
Bassmaster Classic. Things are going down on the Tennessee River. We got Mr. Gussie, another X2 folk that was leading on day one. Looks like he's off to a decent start on day two. But
what do we have for Bass Track right now?
I will pull it up as we browse.
Let's talk about that.
That's right. I mean, I'm curious, your point, just to hop right into it, is looking at Tennessee River, how this is going to shape out. From your standpoint, you're out in the trenches. Do you expect that his pattern was going to hold up the way it is?
So from what I've heard, after our event, how Gussie won it the first time. He led all 4 days, right? Caught 20 smallmouth and won the event by a lot. I don't even know how much he won by. But after the event, obviously we're allowed to talk to people. And I heard that that was such a small window deal, like that. The way the canal sets up, it's only a couple week opportunity that you have to catch those big smallmouth like that. And so coming into this event, I'm sitting there thinking it's probably not going to play. It's going to be a little bit warmer. But obviously they had the super cold weather. They had the river still drawn down.
Right.
And those smallmouth are so current dependent. So they're going to be around the strongest current, this time of the year. You look at places like Pickwick and Wilson, they're always up at the dam, right? We seen Greg Hackney yesterday fishing a little dam, catching smallmouth. Well, essentially what Gussie's fishing is kind of like a dam where that stuff is, all that current's coming through. What surprises me the most is that, he exploited that bite all the way down to the very little stretch that he was on the last time. And here we are, and I didn't see anybody else doing it like he was doing it yesterday. And that just shocked me that there's so many guys using forward-facing sonar nowadays, right? Because even in 2021, that technology was there, but it wasn't like everybody relied on it.
Right.
So now you guys, you have guys that are specialists at it, and nobody picked up on it. So that tells me the bite's not everywhere. It kind of tells me that it's fragile, right?
Right.
Because if there's not 3 or 4 other guys doing it, it's a very niche thing.
Yeah.
That's not to say that if he doesn't catch 10 more smallmouth,
it could be over.
He's going to probably have the classic trophy.
Right. We were talking yesterday about this, with the falling water, essentially he'd be getting more current because as rivers narrow, speed picks up from a current standpoint.
Yep.
So if anything, I think if the water keeps falling, I think he's okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
He's fishing deep enough where his water's probably staying cold at least for the next couple days.
If it is still falling or but being the river level being low is just is definitely helping his game plan of being out deep. I feel like that shallower game would be a lot better right now. I mean, we've seen the weights. It's tough fishing. I mean, Brandon Lester caught him up shallow. It's just very hard to stay consistent with it, to consistently get those big largemouth bites. But it could still happen. I think there was 6 or 7 guys that had 0 or 1 fish, and everybody deserves to be here. They can catch them. So that just kind of tells you, the fishery that we're on, it can be very, very stingy.
It's probably a dumb question with what Gussie's doing, but with all the rain that kind of came through last night, is setup still good, or is he kind of thinking different?
How much rain did we get?
I don't know if it was that much.
Probably it was pouring at
Did it?
8:30 in the morning.
Okay.
I don't think it was much to make
was.
that big of a difference because I think it only rained from 3 a.m. to 6. But
so not enough to worry about.
Then again,
on the river down, right?
Especially on a deep bite, it's probably
I think he's okay. I mean, I'm no pro. I'm no Hunter Shryock. I don't live in Tennessee. I don't know.
I'm not a pro either. I'm not a pro either.
I will give the quick Bass Track update. Gussie's back in first. Lester had the lead a little bit this morning. He's got 2 for 5.8.
Good ones.
So, I mean, I'm assuming just keepers. He's putting them in at 212, so I'm assuming they're just right on 18 inches, and they're probably over 3.
Yeah, of course.
What surprised me about that bite, I guess, I didn't expect it to play nearly as much this time, being later that we are now. I thought it was going to be, as far as the bigger smallmouth being caught, those over 18-inch fish, kind of like what, I don't know if you guys were watching this morning at all, but like Corey John, like fishing a point that had current around it, catching a smallmouth, getting ready to come up and spawn. I'm impressed that those fish are still out there. It kind of blew me away a little bit.
I think people are enjoying watching Corey throw that, not looking down at forward facing. It was actually kind of interesting. It was like one of the first times you've seen somebody fishing like that, like a jerkbait, and not looking down at their feet. Like he had it on spot lock, and he just pointed to the right.
Yep.
He's not looking. I think people kind of enjoyed that a little bit. But my question to you, Shawn, is we released all these new Lithium models last week. All the updated models have Bluetooth now.
Yep.
And it was a great week for us last week launching these new models. And now you got X2 sitting at the top, looking good for the tournament.
It's pretty awesome. It couldn't have worked out pretty, day one better. Awesome to have something come down here at the Classic and not just showing the same stuff you've been showing, but literally be able to walk people through just the entire line now, not the 4 batteries we had last year, to have honestly just awesome conversations about how people are using electronics, and not saying you got to go to a 31 at 125 amps. You can go down to a 50 amp and just have these really cool conversations, and then having them kind of wowed by even something as simple as on your phone, you're now seeing the capacity of your battery to charge. It's really cool to just see the eyes open up on this technology.
Yeah. Yeah. And yesterday, Friday, was pretty busy, especially in here.
Yep.
It was pretty cool. I mean, obviously Saturday, Sunday is going to be much busier, but it was cool. Like from the team that you guys have built, I came from Hunter to Justin Martin to Deakin yesterday. Everyone's here educating people. I will leave myself out of that because I'm not to be educating.
People were asking for it yesterday. Kind of big time now.
Probably not for good reasons. But it's cool to see though, like Hunter, you're able to speak to this stuff. People come up to you because 1, they like following you, but then 2, you're able to talk to these batteries. I think that's one thing you've done really well from the pro team is like educating your guys. 1, to be better with their setup. Like if there is something on the water, you know what you're looking at.
Right.
But then you're able to talk to people about it and know, like when they have questions, you're able to field them.
Yep.
So it's
100%.
Yeah.
Makes a big difference. Just coming from the angler side of it, being able to have a product that I can put in my boat and it just works. I may not know all the details and all the stuff, but I can point someone in the right direction and be like, look, this is a personal experience that I've had for the past 3 years and also others have had, and it's all good things. You know what I mean? Like that I don't have negative experiences with it. I can put it in and it's going to work. And I think at the end of the day, when it comes to batteries, most people just want something that's just going to work and be reliable. So
you forget they're in there.
Yeah, exactly. Forget about it. Just
forget
go
to talk
fishing.
about it because they're just working.
Stuff
That's
that
right.
works. Right. It's not something you want to be worrying about when you're on the water. That's for sure.
No doubt.
That's
no
one thing I want to talk to you about, being that Gussie's leading the Classic. So he's got a unique boat setup.
Yep.
So he runs a different type of boat. I'm not sure which one. It's a Lund.
It's a Lund.
2075.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. Exactly.
So walk us through his setup, where he has them, how he has it set up.
So his setup's pretty cool because every time you talk to people, it's all about batteries in the back of the boat.
Right.
Deakin and I have had plenty of 45-minute conversation about weight and distribution and all that. And Gussie's the exact opposite. There's not a whole lot of boats out there today. He's probably one or two where all those trolling motor batteries are up at the bow. So you got to take the rod locker, open up the rod locker, and down below are his 3 trolling motor batteries. So when it comes to battery distribution, last year he was running our blue tops in the front, no problems. He obviously qualified for the Classic and is here with those running. But this year he's got the Lithium in the front, so completely different. Like that extra R31s are 75 pounds. It's pure lead. It's awesome. It's heavy, but some people don't like that. That's kind of putting pressure on, weight on the front of that boat.
Right.
Now he's lifted that up, which is actually almost the only application where putting that lighter lithium battery is actually speeding up the boat. Many times, and we've heard from Hunter, had a conversation with Carl that putting AGMs in the back of the boat actually sped up the boat just a little bit because that weight's where it's supposed to be. So this is definitely a unique setup. It's great that they're in there because there's so much capacity too. You really don't set it and forget it. Get in the front of the boat. Don't worry about moving your rods and all that stuff, and he's good to go. So it's definitely a unique setup. He's got that in the front, and then actually what he's running, many of our pros are running either 100 amp hour or 125 amp hour dedicated battery on all electronics. Yeah, it's just a little higher voltage, a little better clarity. But what Gussie's running is 2 AGMs. So he's running them in parallel. It's essentially got a 200 amp hour battery sitting in the back of his boat. That thing's never going to die.
No.
Never, ever. He's never have to worry about it. He could probably go the whole Classic without charging those things up, and he's perfectly fine. But He's got a pretty cool setup. And it's been really cool this year too. With you can tell about our pro staff. I think the thing for us the last 3 years, if you took pictures of our booth, it's like a little embarrassing when you look back at the first year. Hunter was there. Yeah, he's probably going, what the heck's going on here? So year 2 is a little better. Year 3 is even better. But the coolest thing we had is, we've been with Hunter for 3 years and with Carl for 3 years and Gussie. And I look at our pro team staff and it's the same faces every year, which I think for a battery company it's good. I think that's amazing news because no one's raising their hand and going, get me the heck out of here.
You hear a lot of horror stories.
Right, you do. So I think that's a good blessing, and it's just great every year to see everyone. If I don't get to see them throughout the year, just talk battery setups. And we could probably do about 8 different YouTube videos, from John Garrett with all 5 AGMs and just saying, I want AGM, to Hamner running AGMs on his trolling motor still. Like everyone's got a unique setup. That's really cool.
The setups, everybody's got their own deal and their reason why. But at the end of the day, that stuff works for each of their individual needs, different boat setups, talked about the weight distribution. The type of boat that you have makes all the difference in the world on whether or not that's going to affect it. And just by me adding an extra lithium this year to have it dedicated just to my Lowrance units, that's just adding a little bit more weight back there. It's going to up my speed and just more reliability. It's same with Gussie. He's running his Hummingbirds. He's out there looking at that the whole time. He's not having any downtime where that, it's lagging throughout the day because he's got 2 AGMs powering it the whole day. So
right. Do you think in this whole lithium craze of all these different brands, obviously performance is obviously very important, but do you think the whole weight distribution conversation kind of got lost in translation of people like, you just need lithium, where it's like, we were talking about with Carl, like how he got faster with AGM when going heavier batteries. Do you think that got lost a little bit here in regards to like when it comes to boat performance?
Yes and no. I mean, I noticed it right away once I did it, and then once I actually started paying attention to it, the more conversations I had, I guess my ears opened up to it more.
Right.
So I think that's one thing that probably people don't think about, as much. But honestly, to me, I think the battery side of it's more important than me losing a mile an hour.
Right. I mean, the reliability factor.
I can figure out how to distribute that weight so my boat can still run as best as it could. And now this year I had Bob's Machine Shop wedges put on, 2-degree wedges on the jack plate. So that's going to allow me to trim my engine up more, which allows me to get more lift. So really I could have kept the lithiums in there. And that's the other thing is I get a lot of people going, that's a ton of money that you're putting into lithiums. And I'm like, you got to understand this is my living.
It's what you do for a living.
Yes. So for me, I want and need the best that I can possibly have. Now, I ran AGM blue tops the past 2 years before that. Absolutely loved them. And that's all I ran for years before. And if I wasn't fishing professionally, that's what I would still be running. I wouldn't spend the extra money to have the lithiums in my situation, but that's to each their own. So it's not like you have to have, certain things. These AGMs are bulletproof. Like you can take them and use them for years and years and years.
I think that was a lot of our conversations yesterday. I think we're in a unique spot here, right? There's lithium competitors. I can see one from here, but we're kind of the one that started with that as our anchor. So honestly, most of our weekend angler conversations yesterday, a guy goes and grabs $800, $900 lithium battery and says, I need this. I have a conversation with him and he's not Hunter. He's 5 hours on a weekend. And I'm going, why are you buying that? This is our blue tops is a good step up for you. So it's so interesting. It's half the price. I mean, we love it. It's great technology. I'll sell it all day long, but it's really awesome to be able to say, let's figure it out for your boat, for how you fish, for what you do. I had a older couple here yesterday, and the wife was kind of cringing at the idea of buying $400, $900 batteries. And I told the husband, you don't need them.
Right.
Yeah. I said, go buy some fishing rods instead of batteries because this is more than enough.
Yeah.
Well, and to me yesterday, what was cool conversation wise, again, just going back to setups, walking through my setup with guys and then talking through what guys were doing. And especially I think the conversation is really unique from the standpoint, a lot of guys just upgrading their boat, adding a graph and adding live scope to it, or adding just one thing and saying, hey, what kind of power do I need for this? And to me, it was really, really an easy walkthrough with guys saying, hey, I like my cranking battery setup. Everything's good. I want a dedicated battery just for my electronics. And in a lot of situations, through and utilizing the battery calculator here at the Classic, it was cool to say, hey, look, man, you don't need a 100 amp hour lithium. We can get away with a 50 amp or an 80 amp, at the max, and you will never run dry in these situations for that. And so it was cool to see that aspect of, here's my setup, here's what I'm doing. Or, hey, my boat's a 2-stroke motor still. I still have an oil tank back there. I don't have room to add all these extra batteries. Here's what we can do. And there's just a lot coming down the line, too, from the trolling motor standpoint. So it's, I think batteries are getting just more compact, and I love how we can kind of fit them into different places on these boats.
For sure. One thing I wanted to bring back up earlier, we were talking about Gussie's setup. Something that was cool on live was he's running Apex units, which is technically a Humminbird, at least as like a saltwater model, but now guys are using it because there's an HDMI in and out. They had it on the live overlay of his screen on top of Bassmaster Live. I think that might have cured the people in the back saying, I don't want to watch this guy staring at the ground. That was super cool yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
Just to throw out left field, a total tangent. But I'm sitting there like, we were downstairs by the JO booth, and Bassmaster has their booth, this giant screen, and you just see people that they see fish rising up, they're like, oh, and it would go down like, oh, like,
Oh my gosh.
yeah. I think it's actually a great addition to
cool.
what they got going on from the live standpoint.
It's crazy to me because I was sitting there watching that and I couldn't believe that they could get that, the capability of recording that and putting it on live, because to me, it's almost like you're slowing down your processor or something. So if I was Gussie, I'd
Right, you'd be a little nervous.
Like, hey,
Right.
Taking one for the team.
Yeah, like, how about you guys just film this screen back here instead of me taking the HDMI port? But, there's not a lot left that people aren't seeing what we're fishing.
Right.
Like, you could be up there staring and saying, oh, I'm fishing a rock pile or whatever, and I'm really fishing a little piece of brush. Now, I mean, I'm like, dang, Gussie, you're fishing that little rock vein right there. Like, it's
Clear as day.
Clear as day for the world to see. Exactly.
Thanks for the waypoint, bud.
Yeah, I was a little bit shocked that it was, putting it out there that early, especially day one on the Classic. So I'm like, well, hopefully,
I think
everybody's courteous to him and stays off of.
Yeah, we saw some. I mean, at least this morning, saw some guys just where he started yesterday. He skipped it today and went to kind of where he caught some later in the day yesterday, and some guys started right on that, and it was curious to see some of that kind of stuff going on.
Tournament anglers or just
tournament anglers?
Oh, okay, well, it's different.
Yeah.
I just thought you meant like
people and people.
Yeah, Joe Schmo's like, I'm gonna show him. This is my hole.
Yeah,
he thinks he could come out here.
Yeah, I'll show you what's a Bassmaster Classic. I'm gonna show these guys. Speaking of which, update, Gussie just caught a 3-pounder, so he's now at a 3 fish with 8.5. So he's got
about 9.5, 10.
Yeah.
What's his current lead?
Lead by almost 4 pounds. Almost 4 pounds.
Nice.
And Lester's bites aren't going to come till later in the day. I mean, everybody else.
He's got.
See if anybody else is remotely doing. I think Mullins fished around them.
Felix tried to. Yes, he caught one there. I guess they were talking on live. He caught one there this morning, like a 3.5 when Gussie wasn't there. He was right in that same area. Right. He said he's going to do that all day today, at least on this weigh-in stage yesterday, because he's like, seems like the way to catch a big bag. But a lot of guys struggled trying to figure that out. It seemed, you know what I mean? Like I feel like a lot of guys probably after what happened last year.
It shocks me that like Teleco. Obviously, it doesn't have that going on very much,
right?
If at all, right? Like literally, I fish against these guys all the time, and there is not a stone unturned. So for him to still be doing what he's doing is just so impressive that he honed in on it. And I guarantee you, that's he probably looked 90% of the time at just doing that.
Sure,
he knew what he was doing launching first day of practice.
He didn't go, I'm going to go throw a trap on a point. I'm going to go fish this back.
Locked in.
He locked in and spent 4 days of practice trying to find 2 schools.
Right.
Well, 2 schools is
right.
what he found.
He needs 15 fish.
15 fish.
Right.
And so everybody else that sampled, and then you go try it for a half a day, and that half a day is just not enough. It's just not everywhere, and it's pretty impressive to find something like that. We just outfish people.
We had him on the show a few months back. We were talking about that. One thing that was cool that he mentioned, because that moping technique, I mean, you've talked about it. They've talked about it on live. A bunch of people talked about it. Like, he's kind of in his own caliber when that technique of being not efficient with it. He mentioned to us, he's like, I try to find that bite every single tournament I go to. Obviously, Florida, that you're not going to make that happen. Well, I don't know. I mean, after Okeechobee River, you might see that happen or see that play. But it's kind of when you have that confidence rolling in something that's so specific,
right?
And people attribute it to being such a water technique where I don't think that's really the case anymore. You can catch them in the summer, you can catch them in the fall, you can catch them in the winter.
It really shines this time of the year. And, tight line, I call it tight. He's not really tight lining, but that's a big deal in Tennessee is tight lining in the winter.
Mm-hmm.
Real light, big heads, casting it out on super light line tackle and just holding it. And that bait pendulum down through the water column. Obviously that's not what he's doing, but it's kind of like that in a sense, sneaky rig or whatever you want to call it, moping. I'm not very good at it. I do a lot of finesse fishing, drop shot, Ned rig, knee. I was
gonna say, if I see you out there doing what he's doing, I'm like, I think Hunter's lost.
Yeah, with everything I'm gonna be doing something. I'm gonna be near the bank, into this event. Say if I was to be fishing this event, living as close as what I do, I'd already planned I was going to try to fish Teleco for like give yourself 4 or 5 days in the off limits period or whatever it was before it goes off limits.
Right.
But go out there and fish just for smallmouth and see if you can't find some of those schools that are just swimming, like swimming around. So at least it would give you some confidence. But like I said, apparently it's not a lot. There's not a lot of it going on, and it's right around that little canal area, and he's making it work.
Yeah. A little update. So we're talking about Felix. Felix has 3 for 9.5, putting him in the top 10.
Mm-hmm.
And Matt Robertson has 2 fish for 610 so far. So if he could get a limit, his ratio of catch to weight was probably the best yesterday.
Yeah, that 10 pounds though, that hurts.
Yes,
I would say that you had 12 pounds, you still have a chance.
If Gussie slips,
obviously.
Yeah,
right.
Because I feel like this is a type of tournament that you're going to have you need 2 good days and a decent day. And obviously, if Gussie has 3 fantastic days, don't beat him.
Right.
But anybody that I feel like 12 pounds and up, you still have a legit shot at winning the thing because you can come back with a 17, 18 pound day or 2 days and make it interesting. So,
Greg Hackney had 4 fish for what was it, 13 pounds or something like that yesterday. 12 pounds.
I think it's 12. 4 fish for 12.
I'm sure you really would have loved for that fish.
That one fish, goes straight to the bottom line. That's a big deal on this pond.
That's got to be a really it's got to be a weird spot to be in, almost kind of a defeating feeling when you can have a great day, but as long as the guy at the top doesn't slip, like you're basically hoping that they slip, and you got to, like, as long as you catch them,
right?
It's got to be a weird position to be in. We're like, if he just maintains what he's doing, we're all screwed.
But it's also maybe it plays into their benefit as well, meaning
pressure. Yeah.
Hey, I'm going to go out here and fish and do everything I can to catch the biggest bag.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have that, oh, shoot, I'm a pound behind.
Yep.
I'm a pound ahead.
That makes sense.
Where the pressure is now put on Gussie.
Yeah,
right?
People living in his head rent free.
Yeah, it's him against the fish at that point. And I wouldn't wish that upon anyone as far as living through that type of pressure. There's a lot of pressure there, meaning don't screw it up.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's you against the fish. That's different than going, I still got to go out here and I got to go out here and blast him to beat this guy. No, I just got to catch him to, beat myself.
Right.
So that's a different type of pressure.
I'm sure it's just great for the listeners right now.
Sorry about that, everybody.
About to open up here. Keep it up, bud.
Yeah, just keep going.
_nation.
I think one other thing I wanted to just go over too, if I think we can still hear okay on here, but
we hope so.
Yeah, we're hoping so. But anyways, Shawn, I wanted to just talk about some of the new models when we're talking the Lithium's new releases at this point in time. I know we've talked about some of these in the past, but just for folks, had a lot of questions yesterday. Some people they want to run the best, right? They want to run, hey, I want a 36 volt on my trolling motor batteries. I want to run this, or for whatever reason. What are some of the new stuff that conversations you've had this week here at the Classic?
Yeah, I think the conversation so far, when you hit trolling motor on the head, we got the 36 volt product that we're bringing to market. We purposely did it in that Group 31 size. In the independent battery, it doesn't have a whole ton of capacity. It's got 40 amp hours, but it gives you ultimate freedom to add another one in parallel and create 80 amp hour battery. Add another one if you want, and go 120. And or like you and I were talking about yesterday, having some redundancy. You want that extra one out to the side. One of them for some reason didn't charge last night and goes bad. You still have 36 volts, right? So we got 36 volts rolling. I think our other huge bump was taking a Group 31 from 100 amp hours to 125, especially on dedicated electronics. I was talking to a guy yesterday who had 6 graphs running, and you need 125 amps if you're not going to manage your power all day long.
Right.
Be obsessive about standby mode and all that good stuff. So getting there and then just rounding out the whole mix, right? Getting 9 amp hours all the way up to 125 amp hours. There's not a battery solution we can't provide now. I think that's just rounds it out, and now it's just time, full steam ahead. Let's roll. Let's build a brand. Let's continue to have people recognize us for not only the AGM product, but this awesome lithium line that we got going.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. No, I think a big feature to me when it comes to 36 volt is that ability to still be in a size 31. Yeah. So many folks, you see the big 36 volt battery that might be 100 amp hours, but having that ability, especially if you're upgrading something in your boat, so many boats are built for that size 31 battery. And if you want to run a 36, and like you said, I mean, to me, redundancy is everything. When you're on the water, to have that ability to switch just to a different battery if there's issues.
And it's ultimately space too. Like I was talking with Alex Rudd, your guys' buddy who's an X2 guy. He's got an express boat. And he's trying to figure out how to run his electronics, and there's no way he was ever putting those 60 plus amp hour 36 volts are almost the size of like a bus battery, a truck battery.
Right.
And if you have no space, you can't even play in that way. So let's make sure we have ultimate options, and we'll help someone figure out what they want, what they need, and make sure it fits in a express to your boat, to Phoenix, to Falcon, whatever's out there. We'll make sure we got it set up for it.
Heck yeah. So we're gonna wrap it up here. I do have one more question that actually popped in my head earlier. We were talking about something, when you're leading an event, getting in somebody's head type of deal. We hear the stories back in the day of Kevin Van Dam. If he's behind, whoever's leading, he'll walk over, shake your hand, and be like, you better catch him. Like things along those lines. I think it was Mercer on their show. They talked about that. Do you see any of that still today?
I haven't.
No?
I haven't been in that position to even know. So
even observing on the front lines, that type of deal.
No, I mean, even in the opens, I've gone into the final day, being in second or third place or something, and like you just be sitting around and you're right next to the competitors, and you kind of hear them be like, "Yeah, I'm gonna probably have my limit by 8 o'clock." You know what I mean? I think people kind of say things on purpose, but ultimately, I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah.
I doubt Gussie. Gussie's already been here and done that. So
yeah, he don't care.
He don't have any voices in his head besides his own.
Right.
Like I said before, like, don't screw this up, dummy, type of thing.
Yeah.
I did see him like when he was boat flipping. He's boat flipping a smallmouth yesterday.
Yeah, he dropped a big one doing it.
Yeah, he dropped
Scared.
a big one. And he knows better, but obviously he knows what he's doing too.
Right.
So that's like one of those things. And he's like, he was on there. He sounded like me. He's like, dang it. He's like, you idiot. Like talking about himself.
Yeah. And his very polite Canadian, just like, oh, gosh darn.
And so like, I've been there before and know that, so that kind of plays into it too. He knows that the odds of that fish going down with that jig head in its mouth, it can pull off. It's not like a high percentage thing. That weight in there flopping around.
It's such a small hook too.
Small hook.
Yeah.
And those smallmouth, once they get their head back down, they just dig. So that he's taking a big risk by when those fish first come up to just continue to lift them into
that
the
momentum.
boat. But obviously he feels like that's the best. He's going to have the best ratio of landing those fish that way.
Right.
But it's a big risk too. So I'm curious to see if he's not going to be landing some of those fish at the side of the boat as this weekend goes on.
Yeah, like maybe in that last fifth fish. Just,
because
maybe
that's one
scoop
of those
at
things.
one.
You start getting down to the final day and you're still boat flipping. What could be the winning fish? It's a little hairy.
Yeah, he doesn't care. He's just slapping him on the deck. He's like, it don't matter. Heck yeah, that's awesome. Well, folks, if you guys are at the Classic, if you're listening to this or at a later date, great show here. Awesome. The X2 presence here. Red Crest was awesome as well. But if you're at the Classic, it's in the exhibit 301, correct?
Yep.
Third floor.
Third floor.
Come by, say hello. We got a good crew here. You can come talk to Hunter, who knows what he's doing. We're stay clear of us. But great show today. Appreciate everybody for listening, and we'll see you on the next one.